Welcome aboard. I'm Ted Everingham, and this is Great Lakes Log from WMTV at the Grosse Pointe War Memorial. Each year at this time, as the old year slides into the new, we're looking for things at my house to do during the winter months from now until spring. And that's why we always invite Mickey Bennett. Mickey, welcome back.
Thank you, Ted.
You're now the Vice Commodore of the Detroit Regional Yacht Racing Association, which is a mouthful, the DRYA, and you're again working on the Winter Seminar Series. It starts very soon.
Yes, Ted, thank you. Thanks for having us back. I can't thank you and the great crew here at WMTV for all the support you give us.
It's an honor.
Well, thank you. And we have tried to raise the level of our seminar programming year after year. And this year, as we get into the program, I think your audience will see that we raised the bar right through the roof this year.
Well, let's look at this from the 10,000-foot view first, Mickey, and then I want you to tell us about very briefly about each of these. They're always on Wednesday.
Correct.
They're at different locations around the area.
Correct.
They're all free.
Yes.
And you don't have to belong to a yacht club or a boat club or the YMCA or anything. The public is invited.
Everyone is invited, whether they're a boater, a non-boater, they have an interest in nautical-themed subjects, or they're just looking for something great to do on a Wednesday night.
And the first one's January 8th, and this one's got just universal appeal. If you can't find something interesting on January 8th at Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, you'll never find anything interesting.
This one is close to my heart. It's about the Pride of Michigan and the Sea Cadets. The Pride of Michigan is a retired Yard Patrol Navy vessel that has been commissioned by the Coast Guard, approved by the Coast Guard as a training and research vessel here in the Great Lakes. And the Sea Cadets are young men and young women who actually operate the vessel on all this wonderful research that they're doing, underwater archaeology, underwater geology, underwater exploration. And these young men and women take their commands from Captain Luke Clyburn, and they work the weather decks, they work the bridge, they work the engine room.
They do it all.
Yes.
That's going to be exciting, but that's a double feature on January 8th.
Yes, the second part of the program is the trawler trip to Alaska. Rich and Cheryl Odendahl took their 25-foot Ranger. They took an SUV and drove it to near Alaska and to Anacortes, Washington, and went 3,000 miles through the inside passage to discover the wonders that Alaska has. 25-foot boat sounds small, but the Ranger tug has some incredibly unique and innovative features to actually make it livable.
But it's still small, and it's a great adventure.
It's the smallest boat to have done it in 2013.
So that's the first program.
Yes.
We'll be aboard the Pride of Michigan and the trawler, it's called what, Romer?
Rome.
Rome. I always get that wrong. Move on through the programs here.
Okay, the next one is really special. Tanya Abbey is a woman who in 1985, at the age of 18, took off out of New York Harbor to solo circumnavigate the world. In 2.5 years, she visited almost 24 countries and came back a solo circumnavigator. She has sailed ever since. She lectures, she writes, she goes on adventure charters, and we are having her come into town to talk about women in sailing and talk about the book she wrote, Maiden Voyage. and there is going to be a special patron dinner at the Detroit Yacht Club to have an intimate dinner and conversation with Tanya, and details can be found at our website on how to purchase a ticket.
But the seminar itself is free.
The seminar is free.
It's a patron dinner, there's a charge.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is special. She is an amazing person, amazing lecturer, and has an incredible story to tell.
And then the week following, your seminar series hits bottom.
Not exactly. This is my favorite part of the show every year, where I get to ask you questions and put you on the hot seat. And it's been leaked that you and Pat Healy have something very special planned this year. You, Ted, are an international judge, U.S. Sailing Certified Umpire, senior judge, and past chair of U.S. Sailing Judges Committee and former member of the Sailing Umpires Committee. Pat Healy is a past head coach at the U.S. Naval Academy, head coach of the Canadian National Sailing Team that won 5 Olympic medals, 22 Pan American medals, and he ran the Louis Vuitton Challenger Series for the 1995 America's Cup. You two have some incredible credentials. Can you share a little bit about it?
Well, you know, thank you. That's all very kind. I'd forgotten that he and I had done those things. He's a good, good friend. This is about the racing rules of sailing and tactics, and I hate seminars about the rules which are conducted by and for rules geeks. That's number one. Secondly, I want it to be fun and memorable. So we're going to do something that is so different this year. I don't think it's ever been done. I don't think this has ever been done. I will be in costume. Does that help you?
Oh boy.
Yeah. And we have props. We have props to use. But we're going to go around a sailing course in a way that no one's ever done, Pat and I, and we're just going to have fun. And that's about all I want to say, because we have some surprises in store. This will be unlike any racing rules seminar you've ever seen anywhere, I promise.
I'm kind of getting a picture with Pat's coaching credentials and your umpiring and rules credentials.
I'll give you one hint. I am bringing my whistle.
Okay.
We'll have fun. Move on to pick up after we ruin the series for you on January 22nd. We move off back to Grosse Pointe Yacht Club for another double feature.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting because we're going to talk about Great Lakes hydrology with Keith Poltowitz, the chief of the watershed branch of the Detroit District Corps of Engineers. And we're going to talk about the lake levels. As your audience might know, the lake levels have been down the past 20 years, last year hitting record lows on a couple of the lakes. And there's a huge interest in what's happening to the lake levels and the ecology. And we're going to talk about the entire Great Lakes watershed and the Great Lakes basin. Then we're going to come down to the smallest of boats, the model yacht racing remote controlled sailboats. And I liken it to, because you're working with a little controller with a joystick and buttons.
Sure.
It's a video game, but it isn't virtual. It's real. You've got the real conditions that the big boats have. You've got wind and waves to contend with. You got the competitor boats to contend with. And how do you maneuver it with that little joystick? This is going to be an amazing thing, right from the largest scale down to the smallest scale.
Sounds like a night for Wick Smith.
That's the gentleman. You got it.
He's a real advocate for all this. Back to the hydrology business, the first half of the presentation on that date, that affects not only recreational boaters and sailors, but fishermen and the ecology of the lakes, and of course, commercial shipping.
Oh, it's everything. Our economy, even our health. There was an article in the Detroit Free Press just Sunday about little plastic beads coming out of our scrubbing products that might pose potential hazards.
Yeah.
And Keith will be talking about a lot of this information.
My point being, I guess, that this really affects all of us, whether we're power boaters, sailboaters, just like walking on the beach or fishing. It affects everyone.
It affects absolutely everyone, even if you just go and you rent a cottage somewhere on one of the lakes, you vacation, say, in Traverse City, or you go up to Mackinac Island. The lake levels and the health of the lakes impact everyone in the Great Lakes region.
We're talking with Mickey Bennett about the DRYA's seminar series, which starts on January 8 and continues every Wednesday into March, actually into April this year, with one break, and we'll talk about that, sort of the midwinter break. They're all free. The website we're showing on the screen will get you all the information you need to know about dates and times and places and subjects, but they're all free, right?
Yes, absolutely, without cost.
Good.
We try to keep it that way.
Well, we should. You're on a mission. Tell me about the DRYA's mission here. Why are you doing this? You're obviously not making any money.
We want to bring people to sailing and sailing to people is actually the shortest way to say it. It is a great sport. It's multi-generational, intergenerational. It's a great family activity, and it provides adventure, it provides fun, it provides opportunity, and we're just trying to help everyone get into a boat or get into boating, or at least participate even vicariously.
Well, and that's right, and I think people enjoy that, and it is a wholesome activity. I always think of it as a family-oriented activity, and you and I could talk for a long time today about fathers and sons and sailing.
Absolutely.
And, we'll save that for another day. But tell me about the presentation at the Great Lakes Yacht Club on February 5th.
Okay.
Another doubleheader?
Yes, and this one has to do, we just led into bringing people to sailing. If somebody wants to buy a boat, how do they go about it? And the internet has given us access to boats around the country, not just locally. And boat brokers are morphing into getting into the internet side of it as opposed to just the showroom side. And a nationally respected boat broker by the name of Bob Reed is based right here out of St. Clair Shores. And he will talk about specifically how do you make a boat purchase and sale a win-win on the internet. Because it isn't like buying a book on Amazon. You've got inspections, surveys, sea trials, and then getting a boat moved from wherever it's purchased, and he will look at that. Then Dan Aiken and Eric Kinney, who have about 60 or 70 years of insurance experience between them, will talk about the important things that are necessary to marine insurance that aren't necessarily important to auto insurance. You have, do you buy insurance actual cash cost, agreed hull value, you've got pollution insurance, salvage insurance. There's a lot to go into it. If you are thinking of buying a boat for the first time or getting another boat, this is a must-see presentation.
Well, that's well put. You summarized that well. I happen to know all of the people that you've mentioned, Dan Aiken, Eric Kinney, and Bob Reed, and I don't think you could have chosen any better. And I'm intrigued. I've worked a little with Bob Reed in buying and selling boats, and I know a little about that business, just enough to be dangerous. But the aspect of bringing that into the internet age is fascinating to me. I've got to see this.
Oh, you can go on the internet and see boats in anywhere. We talked about Alaska. You can buy a boat in Alaska from right here in the Detroit area.
I think I'll wait till July.
Yeah, but it's possible.
Dawson Great Lakes Museum, one of my favorite spots ever. I've told you before we started taping this show that we've had our cameras and crew there probably half a dozen times, and I always enjoy that. What's going on February, what is it, February 12th?
Yeah, this is another one of our special presentations. The Dawson Museum is recently renovated. It is state-of-the-art, it's interactive, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And the person speaking is Dan Harrison, who is a local marine archaeologist and underwater historian. And he's going to talk about the history under our keel right here in Lake St. Clair, in southern part of Lake Huron, western end of Lake Erie, that with centuries of Native American, colonial, the age of discovery, modern navigation, there are just huge piles of historical artifacts and information that are right here under our own keels. And I've heard Dan speak before. Right. He's a mesmerizing speaker. He brings this history to life.
He does. He's very engaging. And this is a special one because of the space limitations at Dawson, you need to do something in advance if you want to go to this one.
Yes, you need to go to the DRYA website or to the Facebook page and click on the free ticket purchase. We have a hard capacity of 125 because it's a public location. And when I checked yesterday evening, there's still about 80 tickets available. They are going fast.
Wow.
And you need a ticket to get in, but the ticket is free. We just need to have a way of governing.
You have to cap capacity.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Dawson can only hold so many people. And again, this is one nobody should want to miss.
We got to get off the air here so I can go get my ticket.
Do it on the internet.
Yeah, right, where I can buy or sell a boat without going to Alaska in January. Right. Mickey, we said these are every Wednesday. There is a break. It's about this time, right?
Yes.
Winter break?
February 19th, we're all going on spring break to the palm trees and sand.
Okay, but you resume on the 26th of February.
Yes, and this is going to be presented by Tim Metcalf, the owner of TCM Marine Electronic Services. And electrical and electronics have become a huge part of everybody's boat today. And Tim is going to go through the process of determining when we need to make a repair or installation on our boats. When do we want to shrink wrap? When do we want to solder? When do we want to use butt connection? Then what kind of shrink wrap? How much? How do we put the butt connectors on? And he will take care of all of that for us. He'll have his little kits of parts and tools. And then he will talk to us about the absolute explosion in marine electronics and electronic systems, and talk to us about what do we want in the way of instrumentation on our boats. Then how do we want all these instruments to talk to each other in the modern technological way that they can? And once they're talking to each other, what do we want them to say? What data do we want brought up? And while we all want to go out sailing and enjoy the wind and water, the new nav systems, the new instruments for wind guides and speed and depth, these are all safety features for us. So we want to learn how to take advantage of the modern electronics for performance enhancement and for safety.
It's a very practical kind of approach to all this. He'll do a good job.
Oh, yeah. This is part of the seminar series. Part of it is entertainment, part of it is adventure, part of it is education, part of it is learning how to sail better.
And keeping in the educational theme, the following week, you talk about diesel engines.
Yes, this is one we've been trying to get on for the last 2 or 3 years. Warren Rusin from Blue Water Marine up on the Clinton River is going to bring a diesel engine block to the North Star Sail Club. And he will teach us the troubleshooting tree. This is something that's real close to my heart as well. When we can't get the engine started, is the battery bad or has it not been charged by the alternator? If we've got good juice in the batteries, but we can't get it started, we can't get it turned over. Is it the solenoid not closing? Is it the starter switch? Is it a bad ground? Is there a broken connection? If we can get it started, but it coughs, sputters, hesitates, dies, what's the problem with the fuel delivery? Is it an injector? Is it a fuel filter? What is it? And Warren will take us through all of this and help us tame the beast in the bilge.
And it's a logical, I've seen this presentation, it's a logical, it's the tree, it's the decision tree. A tree that from which I've fallen more than once in trying to keep ahead of the diesel engine.
All of us have had the feeling, oh, I don't want to open it up and go in there.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by your program on March 12th at Grosse Pointe Sail Club down at Tompkins Community Center in Grosse Pointe Park.
This is another one where modern technology has taken over in areas we just never dreamed. And some of us can feel overwhelmed. And Mike Rulin, a fabulous sailor and an incredible guy on the technological side, is going to talk to us about how do we access the data we talked about previously with Tim Metcalf.
Right.
How do we access it on our smartphones and our tablets and our notebooks? Which we can. We can get navigation. We can get our performance data transferred via Bluetooth onto these personal devices. And if we want, we can send all of that data to Mike, and he will talk to us about how we can pick up time on the race course. So while this has broad appeal to everybody, racers will be particularly interested in how do they keep, in Mike's words, from leaving time out on the course.
Leaving time on the course. I've done that too.
Haven't we all?
But as you say, Mickey, and truly so, this technology is helpful to anyone who goes on the water. It doesn't have to be a sailor. It doesn't have to be a racing sailor. It could be a cruising sailor. It could be...
Well, just imagine if you have your GPS chart plotter down below and it's foggy or otherwise very bad visibility, and you have your tablet or your smartphone in a waterproof box or waterproof case, and you can get your navigation data right up there in the cockpit with you.
It's a repeater. It's
Exactly.
a repeater for what's going on below.
Exactly. Or furthermore, you know, if the unthinkable happens and you're in distress and you want to make a call and you don't have the DSC on your radio or any situation, you can put in a call to the Coast Guard right from your smartphone and hand them your position. There's a lot of things you can do with the modern technology, and between Tim on the electronic side and Mike on the personal device side, you can really get yourself plugged in.
Well, you get into March now. We're into mid-March with this series. It starts on January 8th, and you're going to have a program about match racing, another subject near and dear to my heart. Tell me about that one.
The expression I use, match racing, is hair on fire exciting. And there's three disciplines. There's the actual racing, there's the umpiring, who follow the racers around in powerboats and call the game just like any kind of referee or umpire. It could be basketball, football, the refs are right there on the field, so are the umpires in the umpire boats. And you have race committee. There's slightly different things that a race committee has to do anchored on the signal boat, but this is just an incredibly exciting feature part of sailboat racing where two identical boats, or hopefully identical boats, are pitted against each other just by the skill and the wits of the crew. And we just had an America's Cup, which was a form of match racing. It isn't exactly the match racing we're talking about here in monohulls, but it is a form of match racing.
And these are short courses?
Short courses.
15, 20 minutes max in small boats around here, 19, 20-foot boats, crew of 2 or 3 people, umpires. And is this program going to focus on all 3 of those disciplines that you mentioned?
All 3 of them. There's going to be speakers on all 3 portions of the game, And this is going to be in advance. DRYA is going to have what we're calling 3 clinigatas, where we're going to take these aspects to the various clubs and try to get the sailors in the clubs involved in match racing. And my personal experience is everyone who has an opportunity to be involved comes away saying, I had no idea it was this much fun, it was this exciting, I want more.
It's a different game,
Yes, it is.
and it's, as you say, hair on fire, exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so that's the last of the programs in your series, but then you reprise a couple. You have some encore presentations.
Yes,
Why
encore.
in the world did you do that?
Well, the DRYA territory, as it were, goes from the western end of Lake Erie to the southern end of Lake Huron. And while most of the seminars are featured right here in the core on the Detroit River and Lake St. Clair, we want to make sure that we take our programming and everything we have to offer to these further reaches of
The frontiers of your territory.
well, yes. And the clubs in Lake Erie are going to get the Ted and Pat show, and the clubs on Lake Huron are going to get the match racing programming. And we feel that they get our A programs. But because they are kind of at the far reaches of where we go, our territory now covers about 100 miles.
And something like, well, how many clubs are involved?
There are now 29 clubs.
My heavens.
There's 5, essentially 5 on Lake Erie and 2 on Lake Huron, southern end of
And
Lake
everybody
Erie.
else is in what you call the core.
Yeah, the central area.
Right, the Lake St. Clair and the Detroit River.
Correct.
So every Wednesday is DRYA seminar night, starting on January 8th, with the one exception, which is what, the middle of February, February
Yes,
19th.
February 19th is our winter break.
Mickey, and they're all free. They're at various locations, and the best way to find out about that is to look at drya.org, and the seminar link is very obvious there.
Correct. And one thing that's very important, most of these are at yacht clubs, and all the clubs are opening their doors. There's no dress code. There's no requirement to be a member. Your entire viewing audience is invited, and there's information about meals and bar and restaurant activities that if people want to come for dinner and a movie.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us again. We'll see you on Wednesday at a seminar. We'll see you here next time on Great Lakes Log.